HOA called the cops because I bathed a donkey in my lake. The judge handed them a $5 million bill. Have you ever seen a grown woman scream into her phone over a donkey in a lake? No. Well, I wish I could say the same. It started on a Tuesday, right after breakfast, when I was giving Jasper, my elderly, stubborn, beloved donkey, his monthly spa day. Yes, a real donkey. He's old, arthritic, and loves the cool shallows more than any living soul I've ever met. And our family lake has always been the perfect place for him to stretch, soak, and occasionally splash his dusty rear in a fit of glee. He's earned that right. But apparently, not everyone thought so. Enter Karen. Not just any Karen. The HOA Karen. Overweight, overdressed for the heat, and eternally under the impression that the world was her private courtroom. She came marching up the gravel drive like she had a warrant and 2 deputies in tow, but all she really had was a knockoff badge, a nasty scowl, and a clipboard thicker than my tax file. "This is animal cruelty and unsanitary behavior," she barked. "I'm calling the HOA and the county health department. That water is for community use." I calmly pointed out, like I had for the last 8 years, that this was my private lake. Not hers. Not the HOA's. Ours. My family bought it in 1974. It was deeded, protected, and legally detached from the HOA's new annex plan that came around only 3 years ago. But logic doesn't land with Karen. She dialed 911 with the fury of a medieval queen shouting for her guards. "And I kid you not," she said, and I quote, "There's a man contaminating our water supply with a filthy donkey. We need animal control, and possibly the EPA." The sheriff pulled up just as Jasper let out a mighty bray and rolled on his side in the shallow water like a giant wet potato. The deputy officer, Haskins, bless him, nearly laughed. He'd been to my place before. Knew Jasper. Even fed him a carrot once. But Karen wouldn't let it go. She shoved her HOA clipboard at him like it was gospel. "She's breaking Sanitary Code 14B. The HOA prohibits livestock from being bathed in shared waters. There's E. coli. There's bacteria. It's not shared," I said, holding up the land deed that stays laminated in my tool shed. Not only do I own this lake outright, but it was specifically exempt from the HOA overlay. I testified at the zoning hearing. Karen narrowed her eyes like she'd been challenged to a duel. Twist 1 came fast. The deputy checked the property line and confirmed it. Not only was the HOA wrong, but Karen herself had illegally placed a community shoreline access sign on my dock 2 weeks prior. I hadn't noticed because I'd been in the hospital with pneumonia. The sign? Unauthorized. The concrete post she drilled into my shoreline to mount it? Damaging protected soil. And here's where it got funny. Karen had applied for HOA environmental improvement grants to beautify the area, listing my land as part of her initiative. She'd gotten $35,000 in state funding that she clearly hadn't used on anything but new potted plants around the HOA board house and, allegedly, a Peloton. I filed the first complaint that day. My daughter, a state environmental lawyer, filed the second. But Karen? Oh, she wasn't done. 3 days later, I came home to find a citation nailed to my fence post, a HOA fine for public livestock contamination, now marked at $3,500 and rising by the hour. She'd launched a petition, claimed I endangered children, painted Jasper as a disease-ridden swamp mule terrorizing the lakefront. She even posted on the HOA Facebook group. "He bathes donkeys where our kids swim." What kind of neighbor is this? Never mind the fact that no kid has swum in that lake for over a decade. The dock is splintered, the reeds are tall, and the snapping turtles make sure nobody stays in the water longer than 5 minutes. Twist 2 dropped like thunder the following week. A Channel 4 news van showed up. Apparently, Karen had tried to go viral. She tipped off a local reporter, hoping to make an example of me and my donkey. But it backfired because the reporter, after seeing the deed and interviewing Officer Haskins, ran a landowner harassed by rogue HOA segment during prime time. The video showed Jasper soaking happily while Karen screamed in the background like a wet cat with a lawsuit. It racked up 2.4 million views in 48 hours. Suddenly, everyone had something to say. The State Environmental Board launched an audit. So it did the grant department. Turns out Karen had not only falsified land use to get funding, but she also charged HOA members a shoreline beautification fee $150 each quarterly for 2 years. Where'd that money go? Well, we found receipts for silk window drapes, 2 executive massage chairs, and 1 deeply suspicious payment labeled Algae Consultant, $9,750. When the county judge called a preliminary hearing, Karen showed up wearing sunglasses, a neck brace, don't ask, and wheezing through what she called stress-induced asthma. But no medical documents could be provided. What the judge did have, though, was a 48-page dossier from my daughter. He read aloud: unauthorized HOA expansion, misappropriation of grant funds, environmental tampering, harassment of private citizens, false 911 call, personal injury claims without basis, property vandalism via sign installation. And then came the ruling. Karen was ordered to pay $5 million in damages, a combination of state fines, return grants, civil suit compensation, and court fees. The HOA, ruled complicit in her scheme, was dissolved. Board members resigned one by one, and a public apology video posted to the same HOA Facebook group she once ruled. They used to call her Madam President. Now, she's known online as the Donkey Screamer. By the time the $5 million judgment hit, Karen wasn't just panicking, she was unraveling in public. She held a press conference outside the former HOA clubhouse, which had already been locked by county auditors, wearing a floral scarf like it was armor, and declared, in front of 3 board reporters and a very confused Yorkie, that she was the real victim. "I try to save this lake. I try to protect the children," she wailed. This was never about power, it was about standards. But no one clapped. By then, the truth had spread like wildfire. 10 homeowners came forward with screenshots of Karen forging their e-signatures for the HOA expansion. One elderly couple shared audio of her threatening to tow their car into the water if they didn't pay the unauthorized lake fee. And then came the final cherry on top. A delivery man stepped up during court proceedings with a handwritten invoice for a custom backyard jacuzzi labeled Therapeutic Water Recovery, HOA Health Project. Total price? $14,000. Signed by Karen. Delivered to her house. The same week she fined me for misusing natural resources. The judge didn't blink. He froze all her assets. Karen had to sell her oversized SUV, her boat, and finally her lakefront house. And you know what poetic justice looks like? The county bought the foreclosed property for $1 and turned it into a public wildlife education center. You can't make this up. Where her fancy koi pond once shimmered, now sits a wooden sign: native species welcome. Loud opinions, not so much. As for Jasper, he's still bathing in the lake happily, quietly, and occasionally farting bubbles just to keep things interesting. We put up a carved plaque in his honor at the shoreline. Resident therapist, Jasper the Donkey. EST 2003. Local schools now bring kids on field trips to meet him. And Karen? Last I heard, she's renting an apartment with no lake, no power, and no HOA. The only water she sees now comes out of a cracked shower head. The HOA she ruled for years is gone. Vanished. Dissolved like a sugar cube in lake water. The residents now run community events with no fees, no threats, and certainly no screaming presidents. What started as a petty tantrum over a donkey ended in the downfall of a tyrant and the rise of a community finally learning to laugh, forgive, and build something better. But here's what I keep thinking. Was it ever really about the donkey? Or was it always about someone needing to feel important, no matter the cost? The end.